Just a little FYI before we get started, there are several methods that you can use to solve quadratic equations. Zero factor property, square root property, completing the square, and the quadratic formula. Now, it largely depends on basically two factors. One, whether the equation can be factored or not, because if it can be factored, then it would be most efficient to use the zero factor property. And then if it's not factorable, depending on what form it is, then you would proceed with either solving it using the square root property followed by the completing the square, or you can use the quadratic formula. So this video focuses on the quadratic formula. So recall the quadratic formula. We can use this to solve any type of quadratic equation, and it is minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You know, there's a song that was created. It's called the Quadratic Formula song. I can't believe it. The music was by Carlito McFeely-Steuben and arranged by Olin Randall. I'd like for you to hear it just for a moment.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
I thought that was so cool that they actually made a song out of the quadratic formula. Great way to help students remember it. Anyway, continuing on, so to solve a quadratic equation, you just need to make sure that the equation is in standard form so that you can determine the numerical values for a, b, and c. Recall the x squared term is always going to be your a, the x by itself is your b, and the constant is going to be your c. So all you really have to do with the quadratic formula is simply plug those values into the quadratic formula. Okay, so let's get started. Here we're asked to solve this quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. So step one would be to assign values to a, b, and c. Recall that the coefficient of the x squared term is a, the coefficient of the x term is b, and the coefficient of the constant is c. So we can see here that a is 4, b is 3, and c is 1. Next, we're going to go ahead and plug these values into the quadratic formula. So everywhere you see an a, you're going to replace it with a 4. B, you're going to substitute it with a 3. And c, substitute it with 1. So when you do that, it will look like so. So here we have 3, but with a negative in front of it becomes negative 3. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. Then we have these three numbers being multiplied. 4 times 4 times 1, all is going to give me 16 with a negative in front of it, negative 16 over 8. Under the radical symbol, notice the signs are different. So when the signs are different, subtract, take the sign from the larger number. That's going to give us a negative 7. And recall that the square root of a negative number is not real. So we're going to go ahead and extract the I out. And that's going to leave us with negative 3 plus or minus I, radical 7, all over 8. Or we can separate the two terms and place them under their common denominator, which will look like so. Okay, that's it for this lesson. Thank you for watching Math on PowerPoint tutorials. If you liked this video and found it to be helpful in any way, Please like it and subscribe to my channel.